Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
I'm having a good day, guys.
Are you?
It is beautiful outside. This is the best weather we've had all year. The HVAC installation in my house is done. I actually have forced air now. Heat, AC, I can control it. I'm living in the 21st century again, thank God. I'm on beer 4 or 5 of the day. I lost count. So, yeah, a little. I'm like podcast buzzed right now. And none of that is the point of why I'm happy. The reason I'm happy is because right before this episode, JD Burke tweeted out that he had confirmation from a front office executive that it looks like the NHL's proposal for an early June draft and everything that comes with it is a go, and it could be announced as soon as tomorrow, if not early Tuesday. And oh boy, if that's not the best news we've received since, I don't know, Zadina was picked?
Yes. That is a massive boost to the Lafreniere train.
JD was, besides being a previous guest star on the podcast, which is anyone's biggest claim to fame, he was the first person to report on Detroit's interest at Moritz Seider, 6th overall. He drew the ire of a lot of people, I think us included, because that made no sense. And lo and behold, he was right. So I'm inclined to take JD's word on this one.
Are you waiting for Brad to say something?
Yeah.
YouTube ads screwed up the whole shtick that I was gonna do.
You
Dad's
pulled up
playing a
YouTube
song.
for a song? You don't
Yeah.
have, you don't.
Yes, if we didn't have an ad, I was gonna literally go out of your spiel about how the Red Wings are benefiting here with just celebrate good times. Come on.
Are you trying to get us copyright striked on YouTube?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm allowed up to 6 seconds. I know the rules. It's the Vine rule.
I've never seen a solid, like written in stone rule. Even YouTube itself says even a few seconds. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, but a friend of a friend said it, so it's 100% true.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's how it works.
Friend of a friend. And that's where we've developed to on this podcast. Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. In a good mood today, but still with some passionate words coming to you. I am Detroit's apathy.
I am a Byfield of dreams.
And I'm Zuck the Cuck, everyone's favorite robot.
If you guys actually want to know what I do, Evan pops up for some reason always at the bottom right of my screen. My view looks a little bit different than what you guys would see on YouTube because Evan's the one screen capturing here. And I always cover his name with a window, so I'm surprised when he reads it out. And most of the time I'm banking that it's appropriate enough, so.
It is today.
It is today. I live another day. On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Just a couple topics. The NHL's proposed June draft seems to be rolling full steam ahead. Obviously, no official confirmation yet, but we are going to dive into that, the response to it, what it means for Detroit, what we care about other people's feelings, et cetera, et cetera. We'll be doing our, of course, draft prospect profiles, and then just generally shooting the shoot, enjoying the rest of this sunny Sunday. The sun actually is out while we're recording again, which I do feel bad about, but we had to get this episode out at somewhat of a reasonable time.
I did 2 hours of yard work today without a shirt on. I am happy to report that it was very nice, and now I'm very sunburned.
Speaking about a weird pivot towards Brad's appearance, Brad, you got a couple compliments last episode on your haircut, so pass those along to Crystal.
Yeah, I mean, the grainy camera certainly helps it, but it went a lot better than I was expecting it to go.
The best comparison that I heard was, I didn't know Tomasz Tatar was on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm going for that East European party boy look. That's the whole goal of the quarantine. Soon I'm going to shave the beard and just leave a handlebar mustache so I can get kind of that Tiger King vibe going too. I've got this all planned out. I'm going to steal a look from every corner of the globe, from redneck America to Slovakia, and I got to figure out something for Australia still, but we'll get there.
You just named 3 very similar places, I believe.
Yeah, they're practically the same country.
Oh boy.
I I hope our listeners at this point are astute enough to know that everything we say is just heavy sarcasm. Sometimes we say something like that, and I'm like, will they though? I hope so. There'll be one guy who won't.
The Tomas Tatar comparison is apt because now's probably a good time to tell you, Brad. But Evan and I have traded you for a bag of chips, and just like
traded me to Montreal or Vegas. Like,
to Montreal. You're a Montreal podcast now.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, well, I mean,
can they trade me back to Vegas?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Hell yeah. Okay.
Well, you're going to be on a Montreal podcast now because obviously those rumors that have popped up about Mantha being offer sheeted by Montreal.
I haven't seen those rumors, so I'm going to say they haven't went big time yet. So, but I know, again, because I know our listeners, we're going to get 9 questions about it either this episode or next.
Oh my God.
I love you all. Annoying. But don't take these sites and rumors seriously, please. Because what would an offer sheet have to cost Montreal to the point where Detroit wouldn't immediately match it? It'd be $9 million plus. And what's that getting us? 2 or 3 first rounders? I forget the exact qualification.
That is one step up from the first, a second, and a third. That would be under current rules 2 firsts, a second, and a third.
I mean, I love Anthony Mantha, and I hope we don't lose him, but I'd be thrilled with 2 firsts off because Montreal won't be that good. They'll be middle of the pack. I'll take 2 15ths overall, a second, and a third. Sure, let's go.
I understand the ties because French Canadian to the French Canadian team, of course. Every time something like this happens, I just cheer a little bit harder for a Quebec City expansion team.
The true winners of this new proposed draft lottery system, or what's old is new again, if it does in fact happen, is the 30 teams who aren't Montreal, because then we don't have to hear all the French Canadian hero comes home storylines.
Yes.
No Lafreniere for you, Montreal.
All right, let's dive into it. So for those who need to be brought up to speed, last episode we talked about this. An option that the league was considering internally to get the draft done was an online draft, much similar to the NFL. And we actually talked last episode about why the NFL's draft was so wildly successful and why the NHL should emulate it, that online draft. And to do that, they would want an early June draft, which would mean doing the draft and deciding the order before the season, if they're even going to play one, or even the playoffs, whatever those look like, are done, which is a tough thing to do. So the way they were going to do it would be to go reverse order of standings by points percentage, which is kind of what everyone's agreed is the most fair way to decide reverse order of standings right now. And then run a draft lottery, but with only one winner. So the old draft lottery rules. And for those keeping score, that is an incredibly advantageous situation for Detroit because locking up the best chances at first overall means that they can only draft as low as second, and they have essentially a coin flip. It's like 48% or something, depends on what the odds specifically are, but like a 50-50 shot at landing first overall. That was last episode.
The key point you forgot there is any team can win the draft lottery, or maybe you said it and I wasn't listening. No team can jump up more than 4 spots.
Yes.
So only the team sitting in second, third, or fourth, or fifth could unseed Detroit from number 1. If team number 6, 7, or 8 wins the draft lottery, Detroit still picks first. That's the big thing. So Detroit's basically almost got the field here, except for 4 teams. But again, based on the odds from the last time, it does work out to be a 50-50 because that's still 4 teams with a high percentage.
Yeah. And that would be an insane boost because it's pretty much Detroit versus 4 other teams. Detroit and the rest of the field versus spots 2 to 5. Up from Detroit's 18.5% chance, which was less than Ottawa's cumulative, like 25% chance. So not only does Detroit get a huge boost, they now become the biggest favorites at first overall.
Yes, but I also know how the draft lottery has treated Detroit in the past, so I'm not quite sure how we're going to pick 6th, but I know we're going to pick 6th.
Okay, so that was last episode that it was like the NHL was strongly considering that. Since then, a memo has gone out to the owners and the front offices of every team in the league that this is the NHL, like the league office's proposed solution. 15 million people tuned into the NFL draft, and I want to talk about that first. This was the most successful sports anything to happen throughout this entire ordeal. From the moment coronavirus hit, the NFL has had the most successful exhibition of like any kind of media or public event, and it was this online draft. 15 million people, the equivalent of half the population of Canada, watched Roger Goodell in his freaking mom's basement on a Zoom call. It's not rocket science here. The NHL saw that and went, holy shit, that was amazing. People tuned into that. We can do that. All right, we got to make this work now. And that is by far the biggest motivator for the league pushing this. That's why they're so strong on it. We'll get into the other reasons why it could be advantageous for the league, but don't get us wrong. That is exactly why the league is pushing this, because it makes sense for dollars, because they've lost hundreds of millions in revenue. It makes sense for keeping fans engaged, and it makes sense because it's like the only thing they can do now, because early June would be earlier than when the draft was actually supposed to happen live in person, which was June 26th or 27th, I believe.
Yes. And obviously, for a myriad of reasons, doing an early June draft is completely unfair to just about everybody in the NHL, except for maybe 3 teams. But here's the thing. I'm saying this as a Red Wings fan. No team benefits more from this format than the Red Wings. No one. Not a single team. Unless Ottawa wins the lottery, then they won't care either way. But it gives teams scouting less time to review video, since they missed a lot of tournaments and can't watch a lot of these players' lives to get their final opinion. So they have to comb video, which isn't as ideal. So they would have likely wanted more time to do that. And let's not forget that through this all, they assumed that this draft was going to be happening in September, October. And now it's not only going on as scheduled in June, it's actually being bumped up about 3 weeks. So they have even less time to prepare than they would have otherwise. Obviously, there's the issue with the standings. What happens if a team like Boston picks 31st? They get upset in the first round and they don't get to pick the benefit of picking in the top 20. Then they're picking 31st still. So that's not fair at all. And I mean, just the practicality of it is, I mean, everybody was arguing, oh yeah, well, we don't want to condense everything in October. I never bought that argument for a second. That would be so easy. You hand out the cup September 1st. You could do the draft September 2nd if you needed to. It's not hard. The thing, though, that Ryan mentioned that trumps everything is money. And the NHL would get a lot of eyes, which would get a lot of ad revenue, which, hey, if it goes well, brings in a lot of new fans who are watching because they have nothing better to do. I'm a pretty diehard football fan myself, and I've watched at least the first round of any NFL draft for the last decade. I think I made it all the way through round 5 this year, because the hell else was I going to watch? You can only watch so much Netflix. And I was caught up on The Last Dance at that point. I don't even think it was out at that point. But, I mean, yeah, of course, this is why the NHL is going to do it. From a practicality standpoint, it's stupid. From a, hey, we want to grow the game of hockey, it's a no-brainer.
Now, there's 2 main things here that are theorized to have been put forward to teams. A couple people who I've talked to who are in the know have alluded to one regarding the scouts, so I'm pretty confident in that source being correct that this was part of the league's pitch. But there's 2 main points for the league selling this to teams other than money. One, scouts are usually on contract until July 1st. July 1st is when their contracts roll over or expire, depending on how long they're signed for. The draft ends or finishes at the end of June, and then they move on to their next draft class. And so the league is telling teams, hey, if we do this now, you can release the scouts from their contracts when you were supposed to, or earlier. I don't know how specifically it would work. That's a huge cost-saving measure. And these owners who are hemorrhaging money while the league is not playing are going to like that. 2, pretty much an unnoticed flaw or an unnoticed hitch in everything to do with the rest of the regular season not being played out right now is that there are a lot of individual or local or regional TV deals that need to be addressed because they have a requisite amount of games that need to be put on them or that need to be shown on them. And all right, bye, Evan. a requisite amount of games that need to be shown. And if they don't finish the regular season, it automatically gets rolled over to next season, or that's what's been theorized. So, putting this draft on might be part of negotiations with those TV or those media companies to say, hey, we know we couldn't play out the last dozen or so games, but you broadcast this draft, let's call it square and we'll finish out the season. Or even if that's not the case, think of how happy, like Brad said, advertisers are going to be. They know everyone's eyes are going to be on this. How happy the major network TV deals are going to be. Like, this is a huge boon for the league. This is a way of offsetting the massive amount of money that they've lost. So those are two pieces that they put forward. And though I don't think individually any of those are the real driving factor, I think that the driving factor is just overall, like, the league just wants to recapture the attention and the revenue of hockey fans. Like, pushing, you get to cut costs by not having to have staff on for 4 months longer than you should have to owners is an actual good pitch. Now, like, the other thing that was part of this memo was league execs were saying, this isn't a suggestion. It seems like we're strongly being told that this is what's going to happen.
So I don't have the answer for this, but there's one thing about this that's slightly confusing to me. So let's examine who the league is. What is Gary Bettman's job? He is a front for the owners. His whole job is to do the owner's command, make the league money, run the operations, and if they say jump, he says how high. So when I hear these things that say teams are unhappy with this format, well, what part of the team? Because if the owners were firmly against this, Bettman wouldn't do it. Bettman can walk into an office with them, or a Zoom call, I guess, and say, hey guys, I have a solution to make us a ton of money. And the owners can go, yeah, you're crazy, we're not doing that. And Bettman would drop it that second, even if he says it's a really good idea and they say, no, it's not happening. So if Bettman's pushing this hard, despite general manager's objections, that means the owners are probably peddling this pretty hard then, right? So am I missing something, that the owners and the GM are missing some communication here? Because I am thoroughly confused. Because if the teams, and when I say teams, are fully against this, top to bottom of the organization against this, it wouldn't happen.
Okay, but you're missing one thing here, Brad. It's just that, Bettman serves the owner, but that's more of a dynamic when it's the league negotiating with players. When we're talking about running the entire league, it all does boil down to Gary Bettman and Bill Daly here. And I think you're right that this wouldn't be happening without at least some of the owners' go ahead. And I think you're right in saying that the owners by and large are going to want this just for the revenue saving or the revenue generating model of it. But I think a lot of this kind of centralized decision making does boil down to that literal league office in New York, or like the Zoom call, remoting into New York.
Oh, yeah. Not sorry to cut you off, but I know what you're saying. And I don't think every decision Gary Bettman makes, he calls a 31-person conference call to let them know what's happening. I'm sure they give him a good amount of autonomy to run his job. And as much as the fans hate him and want to boo him, over the course of his career, he's done a good job, lockouts notwithstanding. And depending how you want to look at it, the lockouts probably were a good thing because they made the owners a ton more money. But if it was something they truly hated with a passion, they'd pick up the phone. They would reach out to him. There is no lines of communication being missed here. So they might not be directing him, but you can't tell me there wasn't at least an email that went up to the owner and said, hey guys, great idea, followed by $5 signs.
Okay, so the last part of this pitch from the NHL to front offices was surrounding how to resolve the conditions on conditional trades. So, Brad, you cover that, and then I might dive into a Mike Milbury minute after just to warm you guys up.
Okay, so the NHL, with one of the other complications with an early June draft would be trades. Both forthcoming and already in place, because there's a lot of conditional picks involved that directly affect this draft that can't be decided before the season resumes because they're based on player performance over an 82-game season or a team's results in the playoffs. Detroit is involved in one of them. If Edmonton makes the conference final, Detroit's the fourth round pick they get from Edmonton becomes a 2021 third round pick. So Detroit has vested interest in Edmonton doing well, but if there's no playoffs before the draft, what happens to that pick? So what the NHL has proposed for situations like that is you guys get, what is it, a 7-day window they were talking about to renegotiate the terms of that condition. So, hey, this is happening. You guys can figure out something fair, or we're going to give you a proposal and you're going to use it. So, again, with something as small as Detroit possibly being bumped up one spot in the draft, I don't really see how you negotiate that one, because you either get a third or you get a fourth. There's not really much in between on that. I'm sure they could slap in extra picks. Detroit throws them a 7th, Montreal throws in a 6th, or Edmonton throws in a 6th. I don't know. But yeah, the bigger trades are going to be the sticking point, because Tampa's got a couple first round picks on the line here, I believe. The whole Vancouver making the playoffs first round pick to Tampa, although New Jersey holds that pick now. It could get dicey, and I could see this being a legitimate problem, because, man, if I'm sitting there on a potential first-round pick from a team and the team comes to negotiate with me and says, hey, we'll do X, Y, and Z, if it includes anything but a first-round pick, I'm saying no. So, yeah, I could see this being the biggest sticking point of the early June draft for a lot of teams. Not every team, but for a lot of teams.
Okay, so obviously when this was announced, there was a reaction from the hockey world about it. By and large, pretty negative, because this is a huge departure from what was to be the status quo, and a couple teams were to favor disproportionately from this, which are obviously Detroit and Ottawa. Now, I'm going to do a Mike Milbury minute here. Maybe it's not angry. Maybe I'm just passionate. For those of you who don't know what a Mike Milbury minute is, because they've become a little infrequent as there's been less passion on the ice, but I digress. It stems from Mike Milbury's usual garbage rants about nothing. And so we did a minute-long rant. We gave ourselves, I think, one episode just like 60 seconds to rant about Mike Milbury and his stupid rants and dumb things that he would say on air. I can't remember what he said. I think it was about PK Subban one time. And that's where it all came from. And so in the spirit of Mike Milbury, when we're so angry we could just hit someone with a shoe, we give ourselves 60 seconds to let it all out. So who wants to time me on this one? Brad's going to pull out the timer, and I might cheat and get started beforehand.
We have a nice little one at the bottom, thanks to a recording.
Oh my God, yeah, we do. All right, I'm going to get started on the 45-second mark here, and go. All right, so it came out and from a few different people, and I'm not going to name names because that doesn't matter. The general notion was, oh, Detroit is being favored in this. The league is gifting Detroit first overall, blah, 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 blah. Listen. Yes, Detroit does benefit. Yes, this is objectively unfair. There is a worldwide quarantine. There's no sports being played. No matter what solution was going to be proposed, it is not going to be the status quo regardless. And you're mad about a solution where the worst team in the NHL in the modern era gets a coin flip for first overall? Are you kidding me? Here are Detroit's last 3 draft lottery results from 2017 to 2019. From 6th to 9th, from 5th to 6th, and from 4th to 6th. They have lost a net of 6 spots over the past 3 seasons, missing out on players like Bowen Byram, Alex Turcotte, Cody Glass, etc. And you're mad that Detroit has a coin flip for Alexis Lafreniere? The last time they drafted first overall was 1986. And the last time they drafted third overall was in 1990.
The last 5 seconds is irrelevant.
Yeah,
there are
point didn't matter. Didn't matter.
Yeah. You guys take over for me. I don't get to do the
You
rest.
ran out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my whole theory about this is this unfair to 30 teams in the league? Yeah. Is it benefiting Detroit more than every other team? Yeah. Is there going to be a good solution no matter what they do? No. It doesn't. People are dying. This is a sport. We are in this situation because tens of thousands of people around the world are dying, and you're worried about a team with 17 wins getting some help. I don't know what to tell you guys, but the fix isn't in. Because if it was, like Ryan already mentioned, we'd have not gone backwards in every draft lottery since we entered them. This isn't rocket science. And here's the thing, guys. We don't even know if Red Wings are getting Lafreniere yet. They might get second. They might not even take Byfield. All this talk about the Red Wings being gifted Byfield or Lafreniere, and we might get Stützle or Raymond or Rossi. It hasn't happened yet. This whole thing hasn't even been confirmed. We are talking about a hypothetical on something we think is going to happen. It is actually hilarious how worked up people are getting, because let's not forget, for the better part of the last 15 years, the best player on planet Earth was gifted to the Pittsburgh Penguins in an unfair bullshit lottery that was set up due to extenuating circumstances. That was a lockout. This is a pandemic. So I will already argue this is more justifiable than that one was. Shit happens when shit happens. Deal with it.
Are we being biased? 1000% yes. Would I be on the other side of this argument if Detroit was a contender? Hell yes. Do I have any sympathy or tears for people complaining that a team with multiple holes in every position has a 50-50 shot at Alexis Lafreniere? God, no. God, no. Like Brad said, you're mad about a team that has 17 wins getting some help. It shouldn't even be that Detroit's most likely pick was 4th overall. This lottery system was stupid. I'm sorry. Detroit moved down 6 spots over 3 years. Think of how much better this team would be with Byram. Think about that. Think about if they had Cody Glass instead of Michael Rasmussen. Like it just, you're talking about fairness for something that's allocated completely to chance when ostensibly it shouldn't be. I was dumb once, and I used to advocate for the draft lottery because I thought it prevented tanking. But no, it caused the Chicagos of the world, the Carolinas of the world, the Philadelphias of the world to jump up from like the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 spot into the top 3, which is, you know, for lack of a scientific term, bullshit. Why is, like, Chicago, yeah, it happened fair and square by the rules. The Kane Taves era is now going to be followed by the Kirby Dach and whoever era. They were barely outside of the playoffs the year they got Kirby Dach.
This draft lottery system is designed, in theory, to prevent teams from tanking. What it does in actuality is keep the bottom teams at the bottom. Go look at any basic draft value chart for the NHL draft. There is a dramatic drop-off in the draft after the top 2 to 3 picks. If you put a list together of the 10 to 15 best players in the NHL, I would say comfortably over half those players were 1st or 2nd overall picks. You want parity in the NHL? You need the Red Wings and the Senators getting Lafreniere and Byfield. Because do you know what Alexis Lafreniere does for the Red Wings next season? Maybe 30th or 29th place, if all goes well. They're still going to suck. Do you know what happens to the Red Wings if instead of getting Lafreniere or Byfield, we get, let's say, Rossi this year, 6th overall next year, and then like 4th overall next year? We stay in the basement in all likelihood, because the Red Wings, as we've already talked about, have no problems in their pipeline or even at some positions on the roster with depth. They have a superstar problem in the sense that they don't have one. And every good team in the league has one. There's an honest debate to be had about whether or not Larkin is that guy. He didn't even have a point per game this year, so as much as we love him, I think the argument's been settled. He's had one superstar-ish year in his career. Could he get back there? Sure. But is he that guy? No. So how do you expect teams like this to crawl out of the basement when they're not getting help to crawl out of the basement? We picked 9th overall, and we got a guy that's probably going to play on our 3rd line. And here's the thing.
If all goes well.
If all goes well. And look behind him in the draft. There wasn't much more there. We can hate on that pick all we want. Yeah, there's a handful of players I would have picked over him. We still weren't getting a piece there, no matter how much we pine that was going to turn this franchise around. Last year's draft, Mo Sider, great player. I think the world of him. I'm deeply ashamed of how upset I was with him at pick 6 because it looks like he's going to be a great pick 6. Look at all the guys behind him. None of them look like they're going to be franchise changers. Outside shot Zegras might. They were what? The Red Wings were what? Third worst team in the league last year? They might get a number 2 defenseman out of it. I mean, that's great, but that ain't changing their franchise. Sure, you get enough of these players, you will turn it around. If you pick 5th every year or around 5 every year, after so long, you're going to have so much depth on your team, you can't be bad. But here's the thing. Do you know how many years you would have to be bad for that to happen? Do you think you want fans of a team to sit there for 6, 7, 8 years and stick around? How many fans are the Red Wings losing right now these years? We've missed the playoffs, 3, 4 years in a row?
Mm-hmm. It's expensive.
It costs money. What the NHL needs to find is a system where a team can bottom out for 2 to 3 years and then actually pull it together. You know how you do that if you bottom out? You give them the first overall pick, because then it turns around. Because if Buffalo finished dead last year and they got Jack Hughes, the Red Wings finished dead last this year, they get Lafreniere. Ottawa finishes dead last next year, they get Ratu, whoever they pick first overall. Pick a random team here. San Jose finishes dead last year after they get Shane Wright. That is 4 franchises that are going to turn around a lot effing quicker because they get an elite talent out of it. You want parity. You want this. Get rid of the draft lottery. This system that we might see them implement tomorrow is better.
Okay, I actually want to say here, I do think it's better than what's here now. And I'll eat crow on Ryan from a decade ago who wanted to move away from the system because I didn't know we'd move to something worse. I don't think guaranteeing first overall to the worst team is the best way to do it, but I also don't think that the 3-team lottery is the best way to do it as well. I think this is better for this circumstance. I think this is better overall. I still stand by the gold plan, but we're not going to get into that today.
I would actually argue for a system, okay, not factoring in the old system that they might implement. If we're talking about the 3-team lottery, I would actually argue in favor of taking the bottom 10 teams and each giving them a 10% chance at first overall, but only one team wins. Because then I know dead last
is getting
a top 2 pick. But then you can at least say, well, this team gave it an honest effort. They finished 22nd in the league and they got a superstar. Lucky them. But the teams that still really need it are picking 2nd and 3rd instead of 4th or 5th. And it doesn't sound like that big of a difference. It is. The top of the draft, the bell curve, if you will, of the draft, or not bell curve, whatever curve that curve's called.
The Brad curve now.
What's that?
The Brad curve now.
The Brad curve, the plummet, we'll call it the roller coaster, is steepest at the top of the draft. It matters.
Yeah. If you're the 29 other teams in the league that aren't Detroit and Ottawa here and you're upset, think about it this way. You have a solution, and whether you like it or not, an alternative solution does need to be found for this draft lottery in this draft. It is just the way it works because, apocalypse. Is this not the best case scenario where the only teams being disproportionately rewarded are the teams who are actually the 2 worst teams in the league? They are so like if you're going to attach merit, or it's weird calling being a bad team merit, but if you're going to attach merit to this, by definition, Detroit and Ottawa are the teams that should be assigned this. If I'm a team and Chicago wins this or Philadelphia wins this, I can't remember who's even in the playoffs right now, I'd be pissed off.
We take to the streets.
Honestly, that would be what I'd protest for. If Chicago gets Lafreniere, I'd cross the border illegally. I'd drive to Illinois and I'd protest right there.
Well, we don't have to look very far back to why the current system sucks. Carolina was pretty damn good, just missed the playoffs the year they got Svechnikov. Chicago was, a few points out of a playoff spot when they jumped up and got Kirby Dach. The New York Rangers weren't that far to the playoffs when they jumped up and got Capo Caco. I mean, teams that are good are being disproportionately rewarded now. And I mean, obviously I'm salty because in every one of those cases, they jumped over Detroit and knocked them down a spot. We could argue about who Detroit took, because even if Detroit picked 5th or 4th in 2018, I bet we still end up with Zadina. But still, it's the principle of the matter.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our rant. That's all of our bias and our lack of tears for those crying about this out of the way. Let's talk about what this means for Detroit. Nothing's been confirmed, and we want to say that now. This information might be garbage by the time we reach next episode, which would be upsetting. But
or tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
no.
Honestly.
It's a win-lose either way, because either it happens and this episode was actually relevant and Detroit gets the benefit of the pick, or it doesn't happen and we got a brand new set of fresh content for the midweek episode. And content is at a premium right now.
You said it's a win-lose either way, and I was
We can't lose. We can't lose.
We can't lose, yeah. Well, we either lose the content for Wednesday and win the draft lottery, or we lose the draft lottery, win the content.
So I'm not going to lead into this next part and say, yeah, there's literally no way we'd be upset by not getting the first overall pick. You, of course, want Alexi Lafreniere no matter what now. Like, you're allowed to be upset if these rules get implemented and Detroit loses the proverbial coin toss. That's fine. But, oh man, is this not worlds better to be guaranteed whoever you want at second, likely Byfield, if not Stützle, or maybe even Raymond, right?
It's BPA, best player available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is obviously Jack Quinn.
Like, and whoever we get, like however this shakes out, whatever gets us the best player, I want that method of drafting.
First thing, Evan, close your blinds.
They are.
and two, it's not. It doesn't even matter who the Red Wings get at 2, because I wouldn't be surprised if they pick Stützle or Raymond or Rossi over Byfield. It's the fact that they are going to get the second best player on their board. They get the control. Even if Detroit wants to get real weird and just draft position specific, they get that luxury if they pick 2. This is the big win. Now, I still would be surprised if it's not Lafreniere or Byfield for the Red Wings here. But apparently Yzerman loves Stützle. Don't know how anybody knows that, because his entire operation's in an underground bunker with no wires going in and out of, so no information's leaking. But hey, I digress. People think it. One of our players is German, so naturally we're going to draft a German. But it doesn't matter if that's their guy, and they get him.
I think there's a disproportionate amount of attention paid to how much Yzerman and Draper like Stützle, because it's news when they are seen in Germany, because Germany is notably not North America. It is remarkably easy for the Red Wings scouting team to draft Quinton Byfield. He plays in the OHL. Detroit is almost literally a stone's throw from Windsor, Ontario, which is where an OHL team plays.
That's Draper one OHL team. They're within 4 hours of half the league.
Yeah, Draper will drive to watch OHL teams. Like, that's what it's like. Or maybe not him anymore, but the amateur scouts. So it's not quite as much of a big deal. Someone says, oh, I saw Yzerman in Ottawa. I mean, yeah, he's from there, and this is probably where Byfield was playing. Like, no one's ever going to say that, but they'll say, we saw him in Berlin, or we saw him in Munich, or wherever it is. It's like, yeah, that's different. Like, they went to see him in Mannheim. Like, that's different, and it's notable, so people are saying, oh, he's definitely wants Stützle. No, he's probably just doing due diligence and drafting everyone reasonably within the top 10.
Here's the thing. Now, I do not pay attention to the Yzerman tracker, where he is and where he isn't, but if he went and watched Tim Stützle and then picked Tim Stützle without ever watching Quinton Byfield or Lucas Raymond or whoever, I'm going to have very serious concerns about his management style. Because, yeah, you have to go watch Stützle because you got to know if he's better than not or not. But how do you know if Stützle is better than Byfield? You also have to watch Byfield. Like, the whole thing of, oh, he's in Germany, we're definitely picking Stützle, is the dumbest thing I see. And it's not just Red Wings fans, and it's not just Stützle. Anytime anybody prominent is in any arena, that team is definitely picking that player or trading for that player. Every time. And remember, and we're guilty of this too. The Red Wings sent, I forget who it was. The Red Wings had a couple of management in Colorado for a game. So there was definitely a Detroit-Colorado trade happening that deadline. Yeah, what happened there?
I mean, teams send professional scouts all over the place, which is the point that you're making.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, and this isn't to discredit people who are saying they might take Stützle second overall. Like, no, I think that that's not only just like a very strong argument to consider. That is literally the argument at hand here. It's Lafreniere or Byfield / Stützle / even Raymond, even if you want to throw him in there. And honestly, if you want to get crazy, like if you guys want the wackiest pick possible for second overall, put Drysdale in there. I don't think it's going to happen. I would never bet on it, but shit, we just saw Mo Seider go 6 overall last year, so.
Jamie Drysdale plays the only ultra-specific position on the Red Wings where they don't need right D.
Look, man, much like in the past, I stopped betting against Pittsburgh and Boston. I'm going to stop betting against chaos for the Red Wings.
Oh, no, I know. I'm not ruling anything out. We learned that lesson last year where we were certain it was going to be one of these handful of players, and we weren't even close. So we're sitting here and saying, Byfield or Stützle for second overall, so we know it'll be Rossi.
Brad, when they picked Mo Seider, were we silent? I think it was like 6.5 minutes before we said a single word. And then we said one word each, and then it was another 11 minutes before we said anything.
We were not prepared for that. This year, unless they go 90 players down the depth chart, we're ready.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
We are ready. Now, will we agree with the pick? Yeah, that's to be determined. I'm at the point now where if we're picking second overall, I'm picking Byfield. I will be mildly disappointed, but not surprised if we pick Stützle. I will be mildly disappointed and very surprised if we pick Raymond. I will be very disappointed and very surprised if we pick anybody else. So it doesn't mean that if they pick a Rossi or if they pick a Drysdale that they're a bad player or will be not able to cover it. Doesn't mean I'll be happy.
Evan, as probably the one of us three with the least amount of patience for the kind of hockey Detroit's been playing over the last 2 seasons, if this does come to fruition and they're guaranteed a top 2 overall pick, will this whole past season have been worth it?
Yes, I think so.
That's legitimately the only confirmation I needed. Like that's a
top
true
2
testament.
pick in a top heavy draft. I think it's worth it.
This is the entire reason you suck.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It has to be worth all the pain and suffering.
There is no other consolation other than the draft pick at the end of the tunnel.
You either are
hopefully
getting a winger. You're either getting a winger that is so good he's described as like transcending the game and even magical. Like things just happen when he's on the ice, which is the kind of thing you hear said about players like Crosby. Not comparing Lafreniere to Crosby, but I'm just saying like that's game breaking.
No, Ryan's saying is he will be better.
Yeah, on the record.
Unless he gets drafted by Ottawa, in which case he's a fringe first-line winger. Yeah,
I'd call him more of like a Daigle kind of guy. Or they get an actual potential number 1 center, potential franchise centerman that is massive with an incredible skill set, like ceiling through the sky. It's exactly the kind of dream prospect that we've been preaching about on this podcast for the entirety of its 5.5-year existence. There is everything that we've pined over and lost our minds about and grayed and reduced our hairlines for over the last 5 years culminates in this draft if this comes to fruition. Now, 5 years from now, when we're talking about whoever they pick and they ended up being just like a middle 6 player, obviously you can laugh at me then and clip this. But right now, that's how exciting this is for the Detroit Red Wings.
If they pick in the top 2, it doesn't matter who they pick. That's instantly the top prospect in their entire organization since... I mean, we can't even really argue Datsuk or Zetterberg because
Brad? Like, since who? Like, what pick at the time was like Keith Primo? 3rd overall in 1990. That was the last time
he didn't get this much hype, though. And the scary thing is, neither did, like, Yzerman was, 4th overall? Like, they were happy to get him, but he wasn't man, this might be, in terms of hype, the biggest Red Wings prospect of all time.
Did you
All
say
time.
height?
Hype with a P.
Because he is tall.
Yeah, no, because I mean, yeah, we were excited about Zadina. We after a couple years, we got really hyped about Datsuk and Zetterberg, and Primo was probably a big deal back in the day. It took a while before we really saw what Nick Lidstrom was. We didn't know if Fedorov was going to come over. If the Red Wings get Byfield or Lafreniere, in terms of fan engagement, interests, whatever you want to call it, it might be the highest it's ever been in the history of the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, and they're they existed before the entry draft existed. I believe the entry draft came about in 64, 63 or 64. So they had 30 or 40 odd years before the entry draft came about. But still, you're talking in like 50, 60 years, the biggest prospect. And you don't even have to win this. You don't even have to win these rules. You don't even have to win this new system. You can lose it and get second overall, and you still have the biggest prospect in your team's history. Man, like there's nothing that makes this whole tank worth it, because it sucks and it hurts and it's terrible as a fan. Remove the dynasty that came beforehand. I know I'm speaking from an insane amount of sports privilege here, but does this come close? Anyways, there is going to be a ton of potential top 2 draft pick content, or the opposite if this all falls apart, coming soon. So we're not going to go much deeper than this. Let's flip over to our prospect profile this week, which we're going to keep interesting for you guys. We've done Byfield, we've done Lafreniere. Let's now do another, maybe an outside shot, but a consideration with a top pick, none other than Lucas Raymond. Brad, take us away.
Lil Luca Ray. All right. In a lot of people's minds, not a consideration for second overall. I know I've been kind of banging the table for Raymond for a while now, and the more I watch him, I've not come off that at all. I think he absolutely is a consideration at number 2. Again, I repeat before everybody radios me, he's not who I would take at 2. I still like Byfield more and Stützle a little more, but a consideration. Raymond, the more I watch of him, the more he reminds me of Mitch Marner, and Mitch Marner went 4th overall, which I think if I was running the draft is where Raymond would land right now. He is unbelievably creative on the ice. He's on the smaller side. He's sub 6 feet. I think he's like 5'9", 5'10", something like that. Incredibly shifty on the edges of his skates, unreal vision, unreal hands. And the one thing that is surprising about him for a smaller player, he can score. He's not a guy, like, not that Mitch Marner and those guys can't score. This guy can rip it. You give him time in the slot, he's going to beat you more often than not. He played this past season with Frölunda in the SHL, a very strong team in the SHL. So he was playing a very limited role. So his raw stats aren't super inspiring, but if you dive into his underlying analytics, they are incredibly good. But when you want to know the full story about Lucas Raymond, you have to look at his international performances. He has dominated. I don't use that term lightly. Dominated internationally with Sweden. The under 18 championships last year. So the tournament he would have played in his draft -2. So he was an underager for that tournament. In the championship game against Russia with Yaroslav Askarov, he scored a hat trick, including the OT winner to win Sweden the gold medal. And that is far from an outlier in terms of what he has done. I want to say against his peers, but in all these tournaments he's played in, he's played a year up, some cases 2 years older than him. He is a freak. An absolute freak. And if he had a better year in the SHL than Stützle had in the DEL, or at least a similar year, I think we're talking about Lucas Raymond as the no-brainer top 3. I see some, and I get draft rankings are subjective, and everybody has their own opinion. They might see different games, yada, yada, yada. I see a lot of rankings with Raymond between 6 and 10, and I think those people are nuts. Absolutely insane. At worst, this guy is a top 5 pick. At worst. And for a guy his size, there is very little to dislike about his game. He skates well, unreal hands, good shot, competes, fierce. Again, I'm not going to say he's a wizard defensively, but he's there. He's present. He tries. He can be taught. His motor is incredible. I mean, I can't talk highly enough about this guy, and he's the one prospect this year that I think doesn't get the respect he deserves.
Lucas Raymond, for me, is, if you remove Alexi Lafreniere from the board, that guy where you say he sees the ice like no one else does. I think he might be the smartest playmaker in this draft class. I had a random thought, and guys, call me crazy if I'm saying this, but if you stick Lucas Raymond and him alone in the Heischer Patrick draft, does he go first overall?
Yes. I mean, assuming we don't know if we view Elias Pettersson,
of course,
what we did then, he would, and we view Lucas Raymond what he is now. Yeah, Raymond goes first overall in that draft, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, he is an incredible playmaker that just dictates how the play moves, and he does it well. His execution is excellent. His handles are amazing. Like Brad said, all of that does not come at the concession of a shot. The guy can shoot and the guy can finish. His skating is something that I've seen people knock against him. I think it's okay. It's definitely not a huge advantage, but I think he's so good at how he controls the pace of play that I don't really think it's a disadvantage. I don't ever notice it. Like, I only ever notice his skating when people talk about his skating not being great for someone his size. And I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe you're right, but it doesn't stick out to me like a sore thumb. If someone took Lucas Raymond third overall, I wouldn't say, oh, they took that guy and he's a bad skater. Not at all. I'd say they got an incredible playmaker. He's their potential power play one quarterback. This is a guy who sees the ice and executes extremely, extremely well.
He plays a good 200-foot game too, so you are essentially getting the full package with very, very, very high offensive upside. So he's still number 3 for me, but I can understand the Stützle argument. But this guy's too good to pass up, especially after you watched his World Juniors and just how good he is. Like, playing in the SHL kind of hurt him a little bit because it looked like he didn't get played as much as he should have, which is fair. He's 17, 18 playing against men. But yeah, if it's any other draft with a week 1-2, he's number 1 for sure.
And I think we need to start getting to the point where when we talk about a player's skating, we have to actually specify what type of skating you're talking about, because I don't consider Lucas Raymond a poor skater at all. His north-south speed, his top end isn't crazy. Like, he's got average top speed, but his edge work and his lateral movement is incredible. So yeah, he's not going to beat everybody in the world in a one-on-one race in a straight line. But hockey isn't played in a straight line, and if a defenseman in front of him is coming at him, he's going to juke them out with ease. I mean,
you know who else isn't the fastest player in a straight line?
Alex Ovechkin,
Alexi Lafreniere,
Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a silly argument to me. If you see a guy who's got limited top end speed and is really bad on his edges, yeah, okay, we can call him a poor skater. But how many times do we see a goal created just because of a guy's straight line speed? Even Connor McDavid rarely scores goals in a straight line. He has to juke, work his edges, get around the defender, yada, yada, yada. The fastest straight line skater in the league, probably. And he still scores goals based on his edge work more than his top speed. The reason he's a circus clown is because he can combine them both, which is just stupid. But you look at a guy like Patrick Kane, you look at players like Mitch Marner, you look at players like Johnny Gaudreau. None of those guys are good straight line skaters. None of them. But does it affect any of them negatively? No. And it won't Lucas Raymond either. It's going to be, if you're sitting here in this draft and you have him ranked number 9 right now, I think you're going to look silly in a few years.
You could have a milk bag quarantine body like me, but as long as you score goals at the NHL, I don't give a shit how well you skate.
I'm so sad that this was an incredibly themed topic heavy episode. Otherwise, that would have been the title.
Milk bag quarantine body.
Yeah, that's gotta be your name next episode.
Than a lava lamp right now. But if I could score 40 goals in the NHL, nobody would ask me about it.
We all saw Joe Thornton's quarantine body and what he's capable of in the NHL. Yeah. So I think athletic abilities. Joe
Thornton's one of the best passers of all time, and he looks like he just crawled out of the fattest loser competition.
I don't think it was called I think you had it right the first time. I think it's
Was it the Biggest Loser? Well, biggest, fattest.
Fattest Loser.
I don't watch much TV.
That's so incredible. Can you imagine? Hey, welcome to the Fattest Losers. We're here with some pieces of shit.
They already know they're fat. They don't need to put it as a title.
We're here with literal human garbage, Evan Lobsinger. We're not even going to put the camera on him. He's not worth it. All right, a producer says he's going to do it. Let's see how we can manage to mess
with
this
a
up.
lens that wide.
Someone's going to clip this part of the podcast and we're going to get reported to somebody.
I don't care.
If that's how we go down, I'm fine. Oh, boy. I had another point to make.
How did we get there off of Lucas Raymond?
Talking about skating, I think.
Brad, a point you made that I want to call back to is you talked about Mitch Marner, and I know it's not a direct comparison here, but I'm happy you brought it up. The way this whole draft is shaking out is it kind of reads like the Mitch Marner situation to me. Marner was never really downplayed as a prospect. He was always seen as a high-end prospect in his draft year. He just wasn't considered to be like that number 1 or 2 overall guy. At least to my knowledge or to my memory, I don't think he was. But he always was considered to be like a solid pick for whoever gets him, like hell of a consolation prize. And that's exactly what he's turned out to be. One of the best players in the league. And I really, really, really am getting the same vibes from Lucas Raymond here.
Yeah, I could see it. And the craziest part of this draft is he might go 4th overall and legitimately be the 4th best player of this draft. I mean, it's stacked because Mitch Marner was the McDavid year, right? Because the one thing I distinctly remember about that draft was we knew the top 3 was going McDavid, Eichel, Strome. And then it was, is Toronto going to go Marner or are they going to take the defenseman Hannafin at number 5? Again, everybody's like, Toronto needs a defenseman. I mean, if you ever want the argument of why you go best player available, there it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I very much get that same vibe because we know who the top 2 are. Now, we've seen crazier things happen, and Byfield might not go 2, but he ain't going lower than 3. So, yeah, I could see the argument of a team sitting there at 4. Are we going Raymond or Drysdale or, a centerman, Rossi? I could see that argument starting up again once we know the draft order.
Okay, so with that, there's a lot of draft content to come, obviously. We're going to head over to overtime here.
Can I talk about that top 10 of 2015? Just real quick. This is disgusting. Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Dylan Strome, Mitch Marner, Noah Hannafin, Pavel Zacha, Ivan Provorov, Zach Werenski, Timo Meyer, and Mikko Rantanen at 10.
Jesus Christ.
That is absurd.
That's a wild draft.
If you keep going, it stays strong too later because who else came up in that first round? Matt Barzal, Brock Besser, Thomas Chabot, Kyle Connor.
Jake DeBrusk's got 200 games played in the NHL. Like, it's just, this is insane.
Travis Konechny's there.
Yeah. Evgeny Svechnikov.
And Boston really choked. Zaboral, DeBrusk, Sinishin.
Oh my God. They could have had Barzal,
Connor Chabot.
And Chabot.
Yeah.
Which is who people were predicting there.
Oh my God.
The combination of those 3 have played 211 games, and Jake DeBrusk has played 203 of those.
And the funny thing is, DeBrusk was a reach at that pick.
Yeah, and he turned out to be, DeBrusk has been a strong player.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely justified in that slot.
We're going to move over to overtime here. Overtime, and I want to recognize a couple people, and this is someone who I haven't recognized in a while because I forget because we're not on camera, but I do want to keep recognize him, which is RD Woodworking, the company that made our beautiful custom winged wheel podcast table. I want to do the official release of that, like the post for it, but I want hockey to be back. I want people to be paying attention to the podcast more. I want it to be a little bit more relevant, but go to rdwoodworking.ca. Daniel Rossi is the guy who did this for us. An incredible talent, good friend of ours, and I every time I stare at this table, I'm like, this is the nicest piece of furniture we have in the house, and Mel likes nice furniture. If you have any kind of woodworking thing you want done, rdwoodworking.ca, hit him up. The guy's incredible. Secondly, giveaway sponsor for this podcast, Everett, Born to Dan Hard on Twitter, is sponsoring a Patreon exclusive giveaway to say thank you to the patrons for sticking with us through the quarantine, through the freeze on sports, which is an incredible thing to do and that we want to recognize. So thank you to Everett for sponsoring this giveaway. We are going to be giving away 3 top prizes. Third prize is a $25 gift card to Vintage Detroit's web store. The second prize is a signed puck from a current Red Wing. And the top prize is a customized jersey of the winner's choice. So 3 prizes to give away to our patrons here. We'll be giving this away over the next 3 episodes. Or the next 3 episodes is how you enter. Patrons who are listed as patrons, Patreon supporters over the next 3 episodes as they're registered on Patreon will automatically be entered. And we'll be announcing that afterwards. So thank you, Everett, and stay tuned for that, guys. So if you're not a Patreon supporter yet, you have a chance starting next episode as well to get at least 2 entries here. So and that'll be the tier at which you support will get you more entries as well.
Jesus Christ, how do can I get in on this? I need a custom Stephen Weiss jersey.
You got a freaking stick from Everett. You got the Madison Bowie stick.
That is now hung on my daughter's bedroom wall because she claimed it.
Yeah, that's your fault for you're not being as strong as your daughter. Okay, we're going to head over to overtime now to take some questions and comments from you guys. We're going to start with Selfish Puck Hog says, imagine the Red Wings end up with first overall. Ottawa ends up with one of the following: 2 and 3, 2 and 4, or 3 and 4. Would you trade first overall for Ottawa's 2 picks, whatever they are, straight up, or would anything else have to be added from either side? Thanks, guys.
If it's top 2, if it's 2 and 4 or 3 and 4, yeah, I'm making that trade because I'm caring. What's my worst case scenario? Stützle and Raymond. Yeah. No, it would take the world to get me off of Alexis Lafreniere, but that might just be enough to do it.
Yeah, my take here is that Ottawa doesn't do it in that case, no matter what, without Detroit adding something. And if I'm Detroit, I'm not adding anything because it's really not worth the risk. I would do it straight up because that would be an insane deal, but Ottawa's not doing it.
If you get 2 in the top 4 in this draft, you are laughing. So even if you get first overall, like the moving down is nothing.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad deal here. I have to Google translate another thing because we have another comment from Kim Jong-un here. He says, I told you I wasn't dead, capitalist pig, US&A sympathizers, but you didn't believe me, did you? Can't trust the rumor-mongering fake news. Only democratic wink-wink People's Republic of Korea state-owned news run by me can be trusted. Well, I'm back, bigger and better than ever after a few weeks R&R at Best Korea's finest palace resort with my party train, whilst the superior North Korean scientists whipped up a COVID-19 vaccine. Quick, smart, even though we didn't need it, as strong borders, stronger leadership, and genetic superiority gave us immunity and meant it never broke through to us. Anyways, what else have I been up to? Oh yeah, that's right. My latest gift to swine, US&A, I see has arrived. Please enjoy the shipment of murder hornets. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, I'm not breaking this quarantine even once the disease leaves.
Yeah. Which, when exposed to 5G, also spread coronavirus, although it seems that may not be needed given the current infection rate. Which brings me to my next point. Seattle and their new franchise still need a name. Forget the Rain City Bitch Pigeons. Please welcome the Seattle Murder Hornets. Give me this and I give you vaccine. That is an incredible hockey name. And
I actually like it. I think someone, when that tweeted, who was it? Kat Silverman, I think, on my feed said, yeah, that is absolutely the team name of some single A baseball team in the Atlantic region.
Yeah, it's
the Murder Hornets.
Jersey time, Hornet theme, best 3 yellow primary jerseys of all time. Bonus points if it's just yellow and black. Throw in CHL, AHL, etc. Anything goes. And then a bunch of Korean characters that translate literally to keep the fresh cheese bag on Brad and toss the onion. So, getting better with my Korean there. Best yellow and black jerseys.
Like, or yellow is the primary color? Yeah. Or oh god.
LA Kings. LA Kings yellow with purple accents. Gold.
Boston's whatever. Winnie the Pooh. Nashville's Mustard Predator.
Oh my god. Brad. Brad, what the hell? That's a hard. Okay, we kind of have to go CHL or AHL here, but I can't think of many.
Vancouver for a bit had a yellow one with the spaghetti skate, which was pretty dope.
Was it
LA's
yellow with the V?
No, I think they had one with the spaghetti skate for a brief period of time too, which I liked better. LA's original purple and gold for sure. And then, I mean, God, I'm struggling to think of any decent ones other than Nashville after that.
Nashville's, yeah, like I like them, but
yeah, but I can't think of any better. This might be third by default.
We didn't do good on jersey time this time. Cameron Swick says, is a hot dog a sandwich or a taco? I don't know, Evan, you tell us.
Is a hot dog a taco or a sandwich?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
It's more of a taco. I had to pick.
We once had an interview on this podcast, in case you haven't been listening long enough, with the legendary Ron McLean, and that's the question Evan chose to ask him.
I wasn't the only one, but I needed to know.
Liz B says, so wait, there might actually be something positive to come out of this odd crap show of a season. The amount of people that are crying about the suggestion of going back to the old draft lottery rules for a year is quite hilarious to me. Yes, the draft is rigged in favor of Detroit. That's it exactly. Those people are so smart. I'm glad they are able to see how rigged it is. Whatever they decide to do with the draft, someone will be unhappy. So I'm pro whatever option is going to benefit Detroit the most. Other teams can suck it. That is a great attitude and one that I'm holding as well.
Correct.
Mayor of Toilet Paper Town says, what is your favorite band/artist that stopped recording before your birth, aka the classics, baby? Mine is Creedence Clearwater Revival. Ooh, CCR is a good one.
I'm not a old school music guy.
Jimi Hendrix?
That's a good one. I have the corniest answer to this, but it's the Beatles for me.
I don't have a good answer, so I'm going to pass.
Joseph Delia says, knock, knock. You answered the door. It's Mark. Okay, I just read a little bit of the second line and I'm scared. Knock, knock, you answer the door. It's Mark Bergevin looking thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. He grabs you by the throat. You wince out and it's harder daddy, but he doesn't hear you. He releases you and says, I'm offer sheeting Mantha the same length in dollar amounts as Aho. He slaps your sweet bippy and leaves through the wall like a swelled Kool-Aid guy. No free ads. What do? Match the offer, take the pics, or fix the wall? Thanks, my dudes. Also, I think that says suck my D, Montreal.
That was 8.5, 5 years?
It was 42.27 divided by 5, which is 8454, which would be exactly a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick compensation.
I mean, that's only 5 years. That takes Mantha to 30. Yeah, I'll take that contract. Thank you. Yep. A little more dollars than I would like, but we're canceling that out with a very reasonable term.
Yeah, you add another first to that, and I might tip in the other direction, but I think I choose to match as well. Jake Nagy says, my dudes, after listening to the pod for 3 straight years without ever missing an episode, I've finally become a patron. Jake, thank you so much, and welcome to the Dub family. Appreciate your support over all these years, man.
How have you listened to that many?
Last week, I got to officiate a social distancing wedding for a couple at my apartment who were eloping and wasn't expecting them to pay me. So I figured there was no better time to hop in and become a patron as a way of saying thanks for keeping me sane during the Wings rebuild. Thank you to that couple who got married.
Okay, hold on, wait. Correct me if I'm wrong, but since we talked about it earlier in this episode, and now Jake is a patron and asking a question, is he not the only Red Wings fan who has a more famous reaction to Seider getting picked than us? Because he was the one they cut to in the building. That was you, Jake, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. This was his.
That
thing.
was you. You're the only one who had a more famous reaction than we did.
He sent his videos. Who did he have a recording with after? I can't remember who it was. It might have been a picture with. Was it a picture with Seider? I can't remember. That day was a blur.
I still remember him just sitting there with his hands out like, what?
I never knew that I actually reacted with my mouth open in shock until I saw pictures of us after the fact.
Oh yeah, you had the best reaction, that like your head's kind of back, your chin's down, just eyes wide, mouth open.
I had a hat on. I don't know where the hat went.
I remember
had
my
that
reaction. I just buried my hand in my face because I'm like, what just I couldn't process what had just happened.
Jake continues to say, as the official Visa Kanzler of the Moritz Sider fan club, I have a pitch for you. If we get the number 2 overall pick and select Tim Stützle, we must forever refer to them as the Deutschland duo. Feel free to turn that into a Winged Wheel podcast t-shirt.
What happens if we select Lucas Reichel at 32? Are we just going to forget about him then?
We'll have to think of something. Question for Evan: in a hypothetical world where the quarantine ends and golf is allowed, which 3 current Red Wings would you most like to play a round of golf with?
Hypothetical world, golf courses are going to be open here in 3 weeks before June.
What Red Wings are you inviting with you?
Is there anyone who's good?
Yeah, they're all professional hockey players, so yes.
Yeah, they probably just like pick up a football, throw it over a mountain. Like
they're current Detroit Red Wings. They've had a lot of practice, Evan.
Yes, a lot of off season. I'd play with Tyler Bertuzzi. He just looks like fun because God knows we wouldn't be playing for score. Who else would be interesting?
Fabry's a Guelph boy, so you'd probably get along with him.
Yeah, that'd be a fun group. I don't know if I'd want to play with Mantha. I can't. Me and the French just don't get along.
Evan's 2/3 of the way to Fabry's stranded island trio.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know who the
Jonathan Erickson would be fun. He seems like an interesting dude. Unfortunately, I'd be the ugliest person in that group.
Oh yeah, you would. And Tyler's missing teeth, so.
Yeah, that's not good.
Josh Terrell says, hey, Dub, if you had to make a starting lineup of the biggest NHL draft busts in the last 20 years, who would each of your teams be?
Ooh, 20 years. That takes out some of the all-timers. Yakupov's our starting right winger, I think.
Yeah.
Griffin Reinhardt's got to be on my blue line.
Does it have to be past 20 years?
Yeah, well, that makes it harder, which I'm a fan of.
Hard.
So I got Griffin Reinhardt, Yakupov. Is it too early to say pool party, given the hype around him? I'm going to say too early.
Is it?
Yeah.
Pavel Zacha, maybe?
No, he's playing in the NHL, man. Get more creative than that. I'm toying with the idea of throwing Gilbert Brûlé in here.
How about Eric Goodbranson? He went third overall, didn't he?
Yeah, he'd be there.
Griffin
he
Reinhardt.
had some all right years. Griffin Reinhardt's like given especially what happened with him after.
What was 2014? There was
Rick
someone in 2014.
DiPietro?
No, well, when was he drafted?
He actually had a better career than people gave him credit for, because it was just the contract that colored it. But yeah, for how high he was drafted, you can't really not go with him.
4th overall in 2016 isn't playing in the NHL right now. I think that counts.
Al Montoya?
No, pool party.
Pool party?
That's another name. Al Montoya.
Yeah.
He was 2004.
Yeah.
6th overall.
Yeah, it's hard with... In the past 20 years, it's tough. We might need time to think of that one completely, but those are some names. By Felicia says, how would you guys feel about the additional draft picks? Additional draft picks being added to the draft? For example, if the Canucks land, they want 2 picks at the end of the 2nd or 3rd round, they would not take back their draft picks they traded, but just have additional draft picks added. This idea is considered to be fair for the circumstances.
It's fair for the teams involved in the trade, but not for the teams around them, because it's a small sample. But let's assume you throw an extra pick in for Vancouver and it's pick 63 at the end of the 2nd round. Well, who held pick 63 before that? Detroit. So what if Vancouver took the guy at that pick that Detroit was eyeballing? I think it balances a trade out at the expense of bumping literally every other team in the league back in the draft.
By the way, I think it's hilarious. People want things to be fair. Life isn't fair. It never was. And watching children on Twitter throwing temper tantrums is hilarious. Matty Dub says, hey boys, who are the players you have the most concerns about in the 1st round / most bust potential? Also, how do you feel about Torrey Krug possibly coming to Detroit?
Depends on the contract. Would love Torrey Krug in the winged wheel. Depending on what we pay him and for how long.
It won't come cheap.
I mean, and a bust potential in the first round. Honestly, statistically, everybody from 20 on isn't going to be that significant of a player if you're just going by the odds. So if we limit it to the top 10 region, I would say Cole Perfetti or Jake Sanderson, even though that's kind of a cop-out answer because I don't have him ranked in my top 10, but he will go top 10.
Askarov is kind of a cheap answer as well, but the goaltending thing always gets me. I would feel really nervous about putting a top 10 pick on a goalie. Just that's a general rule for me.
Who am I most nervous about busting? Not necessarily that they will or odds of them busting, but right now, who am I most nervous about busting? Quentin Byfield.
Yeah.
That was going to be mine. Even though I don't think it's going to happen, just that nagging doubt in the back of my head. I'm like, oh, this guy's so good, so good. There's no way he doesn't turn it on and become who you think he's going to become, but maybe.
There's always a chance.
Well, there is with anybody, but him especially. Nags a little bit more.
We preemptively declared Lafreniere Byfield as the biggest prospect in Red Wings history. We're going to be nervous about that busting.
Yeah. And, beyond Alexi Lafreniere, I have at least small concerns about every other player in this draft. And if the Red Wings are getting a top 2 pick, I'm going to be most nervous about the guy we're picking at number 2.
Yep. Okay, let's move forward here. Addy Dubs. Oh, I just read his. Stay inside cheese bags of Fournier Company says, hey there, fellas. Equipment question, what mics do you use? We are using Samson's something or other during the
Q20, I believe.
Yeah.
Just received. Ordered them.
Yeah, it's all a blur, man.
Hold on.
I just received my first
box right here. Yep,
my first mic, Blue Yeti from Amazon, so I can start doing voiceover work from home and possibly teach a few script classes via Zoom. I've never used any recording equipment before. This is my first foray into the field. Hey, man, shoot me a message. I'm not a pro, but I might be able to give you some pointers.
And for reference, our regular mics at Ryan's house that we use when we're not in quarantine are Sennheisers. Forget the exact model number, but because they're like 5 years old.
I've read some reviews and when we were researching what mics to buy, and someone said Blue Yeti is to microphone what Beats by Dre are to headphones. I don't know how true that is, but it resonated.
Brad, have you guys talked about the Handemark update yet? If not, please elaborate.
No, Handemark signed with San Jose.
All right, well.
Okay, well, Burlme scored more points than him, so suck it, San Jose.
Also, Toronto, Montreal, and especially Boston fans can go suck my ass and floss at the Dingleberries. After the league waited for Detroit to not be a perennial contender before moving them to the East, and after a cap was introduced to keep teams like Detroit from overspending, and after contract term limits were introduced to keep teams like Detroit from signing those long term cap circumventing deals, as well as punishing them for the one they already signed for Zetterberg. And after the league changed the Stanley Cup final schedule in 2009 and prevented the Red Wings from getting the usual amount of rest between their series, and after GMs across the league conferred to either fleece Detroit or prevent them from acquiring players, you're telling me the Islanders, a non-playoff team with 2 goalies already on their roster, actually needed to put a claim in for Nabokov? They did the league a favor. After Detroit sliding down 6 total draft spots in the last 3 years, after all that, and then some, these fans have the audacity to complain about the draft being rigged in Detroit's favor? Man, that was a better Mike Milbury minute than mine. I'm about 4 to 5 seconds from Wilden. Chris Osgood for Hall of Fame. Stay masked, cheese bags. And Lex's question is from new name level sponsor Jake Kiefer. Thank you so much, man, for your support, and welcome to the Dub family. He says, "Hola muchachos, first time patron, long time listener, 5'10", 165. Hey man, that's me. You can take my spot if you want. Question, if the Wings pick first overall, it's fair to say that this will greatly shorten their rebuild time versus picking fourth. If that happens, would it make sense for Detroit to slightly spurge in free agency? Not sure they should at least attempt to get Alex Pietrangelo, Krug, or Taylor Hall. Wanted your take.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is a word of warning, and I know I kind of mentioned it earlier in the episode. Lafreniere doesn't speed up the rebuild that much. He means that when we come out of the rebuild, we have that dynamic superstar, hopefully, that will take Detroit to the next level. The rest of this team beyond Lafreniere still sucks, and they're still probably the favorites to finish dead last in the league next year. I do not think they should splurge in free agency. I think mind you, I'm of the mindset I think very few teams should splurge in free agency because not a lot of wise decisions are made July 1st. Very few, actually. Usually 80% of them are strikeouts. But it's way, way too soon. Detroit, until they have a roster where you're going, yeah, they really only have 1 or 2 holes to fill, should not touch free agency because they still need an entire third line, an entire fourth line, depending if they get Lafreniere or not, a second line winger, basically the entire bottom 3 of their defense, and a couple of goalies, unless you think Jonathan Bernier is going to be useful until his mid-30s. So, yeah, they're a long way away from splurging still.
I do think the general notion of what you propose, though, is one that people fail to consider is that it's not necessarily just the potential Lafreniere or even Byfield that would speed it up. It's what they would put in motion. So yeah, if you get Lafreniere, and then probably not this year, but next you get like a Taylor Hall type guy, and then you sign them, and maybe you overpay a little bit because you have that cap space, and then you get the next year's like, William Karlsson, where he wasn't seen as being something, but he turns out to be a diamond in the rough. That's when you start shaving months and years off the rebuild. So, would it be an immediate thing where you go after this draft class? No. Would I say absolutely unequivocally don't go after those guys? No, of course not. You always want to make your team better, but it has to be under the right circumstance. But for sure, yes, down the line, your proposal makes sense there. All right, time for some other questions from Reddit and Twitter. On Twitter, we have one from Topher Thinks, says, knowing that this is a complete pipe dream, what would it take to get Spencer Knight from the Panthers?
A lot. I think if you are looking at just Red Wings prospects, because I don't think there's anything on the roster worthwhile other than Larkin or Zadina or Mantha, but I don't think Detroit's giving those up. I think the offer for Spencer Knight would be Veleno plus, probably. So you're looking at Veleno plus Tuomisto plus a half-decent pick.
And Nail the Hobo on Reddit says, if you had to pick one past Red Wing to add to the current Red Wings, who would it be and why?
Okay, well, this would come down to what you think the Red Wings' biggest need is. Unfortunately, those are center and
hockey
and left defense. So that doesn't help us because that still means we could take any one of Howe, Yzerman, or Lidstrom. I think given the way the NHL is going, what the Red Wings' biggest needs are, assuming, let's say optimistically they land Lafreniere, I think they need Lidstrom. Because I think if you get Lafreniere or Byfield, there's going to be enough in that top 6 to keep that offense good. Between Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi, Fabry, Zadina, Lafreniere, or Byfield. I wouldn't call that an elite top 6, but that definitely isn't a poor top 6, especially once they all hit their stride. I really like Hronek, Seider, maybe even a few years down the road, Tuomisto down the right side. That left side of the defense in terms of players under the age of 25 is sparse. There's Cholowski. Maybe McIsaac.
Yeah.
So
imagine
maybe Johansson if you want to be really optimistic. So yeah, I think Lidstrom would be the choice here.
Imagine a world where prime Steve Yzerman or Gordie Howe isn't the best player to add to your team right now.
I'm only adding the second greatest defenseman of all time.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll take one from Cider Salad here, who mentioned that one thing we didn't talk about in reviewing Yzerman's performance episode is with Ernie. We talked about how he hasn't exactly produced like we thought he had the potential to, but we could have talked about his previous production versus his production under Blashill. So the notion of, is Blashill the reason Adam Ernie didn't flourish as a potential offensive producer?
I would absolutely hear that argument. I would absolutely agree that Jeff Blashill did not help him and probably made it worse. I also think that if you have half decent offensive upside, you could have a literal chair coaching the team and score more than 2 goals.
Yeah, my thing is you're probably right. He probably did get a little bit burned by his deployment and his teammates, more so the latter, because it doesn't matter how you get deployed. If you're playing with, two wet bags as your line mates, you're not going to be producing a lot, especially if you're not a line driver, which obviously Adam Ernie isn't. But my counter to that is, and this isn't necessarily a defense of Blashill, but it's like, if you need those good line mates to produce, that's not an exceptionally rare offensive, amount of offensive ability in the NHL. That's pretty replaceable. So yeah, it's probably not as much of a knock against Ernie as we made it out to be. Whatever we said about him, and I honestly do think Blashill's deployment does suppress offensive output quite a bit with certain Red Wings. But I still think, like you said, Brad, we would have seen something if it was worth noting. I'm sure he has more in the tank. Yeah, we had a 2-goal game, so.
He said flash is Ryan.
Flash. One strike of lightning.
Hey, man. It's twice. It's 2. Okay, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully, by the time we talk again, it is going to be some great news for Detroit. So stay tuned. We'd like to thank all of our listeners, our official, unofficial sponsors for this show, rdwoodworking.ca and Everett, at Born to Dan Hart on Twitter, and of course our name level sponsors, the septic tank of that bitch Carol Baskins, Jake Kiefer, Bye Felicia, Dead Panda Society, Brad Smith, Andrew Bohan, Scott Martin, Kayla Thompson, Jacob Turner, Matt McKay, Brandon M, Matthew M Rice, Luke Johnson, Ryan Lewis, Langabeer, Clayton Van Dyken, Kalen Wood, Hassam Al-Qassem, Arjun Shanker, Charlie Elkins, Hannah Lee, Alex Ott, Chris Frank, Connor Leighton, Danny Jr., Matthew Keeler, Craig Kibble, Simon Anderson, Antonio Gracias, John Evans, and K-Waz. Thank you all. We love you. Let's see what happens.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockeytown Evan.